here's something that has me completely perplexed, and maybe you can help me out with this one, okay? Because I'm not a forum person. Like, I I am a YouTube guy. Very much so. That is my medium. That is my forum. That is my expression. That is what I pay attention to. Somebody posts a video, I generally watch it. Somebody posts on a forum, I don't really read it. I'm sorry. I guess lazy is probably the best way to put it. It's much easier for me to just crack on a YouTube video and perhaps even just listen to it in the background. I'm not really interested in which angle you show me Hound from, except when there's a couple of video producers out there who do some really incredible things with video reviews and really capture the toy in a great way. The point is, though, when some news hits on Transformers, big news, news that will get people talking, as we got this week with the first reveals of some of the brand new vehicles from Transformers 4 and some of the brand new redesigns. I don't really notice exactly how a lot of people react. But I have a question for you, okay? Is it the case that outside of the movies, people still react in such a negative way, which is that it's not like it should be? What do I mean by that? Well, let's put it this way, okay? Allegedly, spoiler alert here, Drift is one of the characters who will be appearing in Transformers 4. And there's a lot of people who believe that, quite possibly, he's one of the cars we've already seen. Now, I'm not going to get into the speculation of whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, but what I am interested in is, why do you hear people say he should be this type of car, or he should be that type of car? Transformers is inherently the story of robots in disguise, and believe it or not, their disguise can change. They are a race of changing robots. Therefore, one of the great things about them is that the franchise is not beholden to what happened in the 1980s. Shockwave doesn't have to be a giant space cannon. He wasn't. He was a tank. When he shows up in Transformers Prime, he's a tank, but you don't hear people saying he should have been a giant space cannon. Why is it that when the movies come out, there seems to be a lot more of it should have been like it was originally, as opposed to when Transformers Prime introduces Wheeljack and turns him into a wrecker, and he's not a scientist, and basically just turns him into a douchebag. I don't really like Transformers Prime Wheeljack. I literally think he's a pain in the arse. But why does that mentality carry over to the Michael Bay movies, as opposed to not carrying over to every aspect of the Transformers? Now, certainly I can agree with you within continuity, as in, if something drastically happened within the comic book series, Spikewick Wiki is a case in point on that one. When he was introduced in All Hail Megatron along with his father, there was a relationship that was set up that was completely destroyed by Mike Costa when he started the ongoing, and that causes issues. That certainly causes a problem, and I can see why fans would have a problem with that. But why do they do it specifically, at least as far as I can see, with Michael Bay's movies? Is it because it's a movie and therefore it has to be the purest, most distilled form of the Transformers that you can imagine, and the only way that you can truly imagine it is how these characters were originally conceived? I don't know. It's an interesting thought, and something that I've been giving some thought to over the past, say, 24 hours. I just don't get it. Transformers has constantly revised itself, redesigned itself, updated itself, tweaked itself, downgraded itself, destroyed itself. It's done everything over the last 30 years almost. And I just can't understand this absolute beholden to why it has to be the way it was back in the 1980s. Needless to say, however, these pictures that we've gotten are quite interesting. Optimus Prime, I think, looks suitably different, and yet I can see why it would be the same character. He's 4 years on, and, as has been established in the movie so far, really all it takes is a scanning job. So I like the idea that for him to get a new alt mode, that is, not just a scanning job, just a random scanner, just scan Optimus Prime. All it takes is for them to just scan something in order to become that thing. It's a personality change. I don't know, he's rolling with the times. He's just fancying a change. That's fine with me. If this is Bumblebee, however, yeah, I have a kind of problem with that. Bumblebee's young and hip, and I can't understand why he would essentially downgrade himself. Having said that, of course, he did upgrade on the basis that Megan Fox was rather rude to him, and that's why he got the new upgrade. So perhaps, I don't know, maybe Bumblebee's more comfortable. Perhaps he's older. Perhaps something's happened to him. I don't know what more could happen to him, but I don't know. The one thing that I would like to see, at least from Bumblebee moving forward, is that he actually has a voice. We're several years on now. The war is essentially over. I would like this to be a fresh start. Let's assume that within the course of the last few years, they've finally gotten around to fixing Bumblebee's voice. The other two concept cars, I'm not a car guy, so I don't know. They're very, very nice. They look extremely beautiful. They are cars that I would own in an instant if I were super rich. As to which characters they are, I'm not interested. I don't care if it's Slingshot. I don't care if it's Drift. I will wait and see what they produce on screen, because quite honestly, 9 times out of 10, it's really not worthwhile getting your knickers in a twist anyway, because Sideswipe isn't really going to do anything anyway. Unless it was one of the original guys introduced in the first movie, and bearing in mind Jazz is dead, Ironhide's dead, unless it's one of those guys, it's really nothing to worry about. Generally speaking, every other character that they've introduced since the original movie has essentially been fodder for one reason or another. So, when it comes to Transformers, take it with a pinch of salt. This idea that Grimlock may in fact be a flat-nosed truck that transforms into a dinosaur is redundant and stupid. And that's why I don't think it's actually going to happen. Could Grimlock be a truck? Yes, absolutely. He doesn't have to be a dinosaur. This is the thing. Grimlock in Transformers RID wasn't a dinosaur. Hey, in the Headmaster series, Grimlock was a train bot, as well as being a dinosaur. Sometimes things just go wrong. He doesn't have to be a giant T-Rex. Grimlock as a character is not defined by the fact that he's a T-Rex. Grimlock is one of those characters that is defined by his personality and has been given the duration, the stretch, the imagination, the time of the creators for them to establish a truly interesting character. Now, the one thing with Michael Bay's movies is that it's generally the character that is left at the door, and usually some kind of aesthetic is carried over. Sideswipe is the cool, sexy car, but Sideswipe is not Sideswipe that you would come to know. Ironhide is the weapons specialist, and he's the tough guy. In that instance, yeah, okay, maybe his character was brought over, but his design certainly wasn't. You've got a balance going on one way or the other. So the point is, does Grimlock have to be a dinosaur? No, he doesn't. You could bring the character over. The worst thing, I think, would be to use the name and not introduce the character. Now, I know that this flies directly in contrast with what I've been saying for the last 5 or 6 minutes, but that's just a personal preference of mine. But however they do it, they're going to do it on their own terms, and ultimately that's just what you're going to have to accept, because you're not making Transformers the movie, nor are you possibly capable of making Transformers the movie. I know that's a massive generalization, and I might have offended some kind of film producer out there, or some kind of movie maker or something, but let's be honest, Michael Bay is where he is because he has a certain talent, and that talent is he is able to produce billion-dollar movies. It'll be interesting, actually, just from a monetary standpoint, where the next Transformers movie lies. Will it make the $1 billion that everything's doing? Is it... The one thing that's quite interesting is how Marvel are annualizing the superhero franchise. Now, Transformers itself can't really do that, but you can't help but wonder whether or not these studios are looking at the Marvel method of annualizing. Sometimes, 2 or 3 movies a year, producing these movies that are making over $1 billion. Robert Downey Jr.'s track record at the box office is outstanding if you look at it ever since the original Iron Man. The fact is, year on year, he's been in a movie that's made if not more than $1 billion, close to $1 billion. At some point, the studios have to start realizing that other franchises could benefit from this. You know, the Lord of the Rings movies are annualized, but there's only a set amount of those. The Harry Potter movies, for the most part, can be annualized. So yeah, could Transformers be an annualized movie franchise? I think it could. I literally do. It's made enough money, despite the bad press that, say, for example, the second movie got, that the third one continually continually broke more box office records. So we'll just have to wait and see. But needless to say, it started all over again, and here we go, Transformers 4. Now, I'll go see Transformers 4. I'm looking forward to Transformers 4. What I'm not looking forward to is the toys. Here we go again. Another movie year, another movie 2 years, essentially, because it'll be 2 years while this entire movie line is lined up. We will get the toys all over again, you know, clogging the shelves. We'll get another 3 or 4 versions of Bumblebee. We'll get a leader class version. We'll get an ultra class version. We'll get all of these different toy lines that you didn't even realize you needed or wanted to exist. That's what we're going to get. And for that to happen on the 30th anniversary is both a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's a good thing that in terms of the 30th anniversary, we get a movie. It's a good tentpole. It's a good staple. It's a good, nail to hammer in to the franchise and say, on the 30th anniversary of Transformers, we got a brand new live-action movie. That said, of course, I just don't want the toys. That's the thing, because it will essentially overshadow everything. And while, you know, I'm not interested in Beast Hunters in the slightest, though I have been reliably informed by Andy Cobra Commander TFW that the new Beast Hunters have hit Toys R Us. So I am stroking my chin thinking, I could go to Toys R Us today. I really want that Prime. I really like Optimus Prime in Beast Hunters. I like the new mode for him. It's beefy, it's cool, and it would go nicely, I think, with my Optimus Prime collection. Though it's not massive, and on top of everything else, you know, there's no room for him to go there. But I think Optimus Prime is cool. Also, Twin, or whatever they call him nowadays, is there. And I'm like, Terracons, yeah. And I was messing around with him. He's a really cool little figure. I really, really do like him. It's not how I would have wanted the Terracons to have, come back. I would have loved to have seen the deluxe class Terracons. Though Andy, Cobra Commander TFW, did point out a very interesting thing, which was that he turned around at me and said, well, you know, Dave, in all fairness, it's not that much smaller than what Twin was originally. And I was like, you know what? That's a really compelling argument. The problem is Hungar is going to be much too small. But, hey, what are you going to do? At least we're getting Terracons. And, once I get my hands on Blot, the world will be grand. Because everybody knows that Blot is awesome. And the rest of them, I can take or leave. Hungar, just because I love his name. I think his name is absolutely brilliant. So, what else are we going to talk about today? Well, you guys posed a couple of questions. Actually, you posed one question. There was two people. First of all, Mr. A Train from the City said, are you keeping up on Green Lantern? Because Jeff Johns' 10-year run on Green Lantern has just come to an end. And I Am Galvatron seconded that. Actually, the answer is no, I'm not. I am keeping up sort of with Green Lantern, but here's the problem, and this is something that I've been actively trying to correct over the last few months, is when the new 52 came out, I was all on board for everything, and then I quickly fell off. And I quickly fell off because I fell into that mode of, this isn't the DC universe that I remember. These characters are, it goes back. I'm sure it's a fan mentality thing. It's like, this isn't what I'm used to. Now, the difference between Transformers is Transformers reboots itself every 3 or 4 years. DC reboots itself every 20 years, So, for the entire lifetime of me reading comic books, I was used to the DC universe existing in such a way, with minor tweaks of their continuity along the way, which is easy enough to get your head around and isn't too obtrusive. The New 52 was very obtrusive. It was like, right, let's just start again. But I finally started catching up on things. One of the things that I haven't caught up yet on is Green Lantern, and the reason for that is there's 4 books. There's 4 books, and that's a lot of commitment to buy back in bulk. I still think digital comics need to come down in price. When a book is not on the shelf anymore or readily available, that book should be 69p. It shouldn't be 159 or 199. It should be 69p. And the problem is, yes, I've pretty much caught up with Green Lantern, but we've got Green Lantern Corps, we've got the New Guardians, we've got the Red Lantern series, and they all tie into Rise of the Third Army. Now, if I'm going to read Rise of the Third Army, I want to read it as it was originally intended. And that's one of the things that I've been catching up on. I've caught up on all of the Batman books because they had the whole Death of the Family storyline. I've just caught up. Well, I'm just catching up with the Justice League story, which tied into Aquaman. So I've caught up with Aquaman and that. But at best, except for Death of the Family, which, to be honest, a lot of the tie-in books were redundant. That's one of the things that I absolutely hate. Is these giant tie-in books where nothing is really relevant to the actual story being told. For example, Catwoman had tie-in stories for Death of the Family, and yet she played no integral part in the series whatsoever. So why have her in that? There was absolutely no reason for it other than Catwoman's a Batman character. Well, duh. But that doesn't mean she has to be in it. So yeah, I literally just... The point is, and the answer to your question is, no, I haven't read it. I am intending to read it. I am currently in the process of rereading the New 52 Green Lantern from the beginning, and I'm going to do that with Green Lantern Corps and the New Guardians. Both of which I've read the first trades of, but if I'm going to give the Green Lantern a fair shake and see what Jeff Johns has done, then I will read all of it, and I will absorb all of it, and I will render my opinion. So it is, thank you for your question. It is something that I will be talking about once I've done it in a future video. Audio, video. You get the idea. But from what I hear, it's very, very good, and that's a good thing to hear, because the Green Lantern 10-year saga that Jeff Johns was on has been some of my absolute favourite over the last 10 years. I mean, I can certainly comment anything pre-52. I could say that, it was outstanding. Even though after Blackest Night, I think it sort of lost its way a little bit, because it really wasn't anything of the massive trilogy that Jeff Johns had originally conceived. It was something, extra, and it sort of felt that little way to me as well. So, yeah, when I read it, I will let you all know. So, yeah. What else have we got? I've recently become a PlayStation Plus member, and I've been downloading a bunch of games for that. And one of the games that I've just recently got was the Shadow of the Colossus Ico HD upgrades. Now, I've never played Ico, though a friend of mine, Phil, a very good friend of mine, states categorically that it's his favourite game of the PS2 era. And Phil knows his game, so I'm entitled to believe him that it's an incredible game. My concern is, it's a game that's, by now, I would imagine, if not close to, a decade old. And I'm hoping that it holds up, because I love Shadow of the Colossus. I thought Shadow of the Colossus was an incredible experience, and I'm really looking forward to going back to that in HD. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what that has to offer for me. So it's going to be very, very exciting. I'm very much enjoying this PlayStation Plus. I'm sitting on a bunch of games that I have, which I need to start, which I feel no, massive rush to do. It's great. Absolutely fantastic. So anyway, that's really going to do it, I think, for this particular episode. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go ahead and leave your questions, feel free to do so. You can do that just by commenting on this video. Anything you want to ask, feel free. As I've said before, if it's shit, I might not answer it. If I don't have an answer, this week's particular question, then, I'll get round to it, or I'll try and come up with something, or I'll just tell you, at the end of the day, I just don't have an answer. So, until next time, everybody, catch yourselves later, and bye for now.